Okay, good afternoon, guys. It's a beautiful Thursday. Hope you guys have all had a chance to get out a little bit. This is Julie Butler with the Career Development Center. Today we have three awesome employers who are giving up an hour of their beautiful day to come and talk with us about their work and their jobs and what they do. So I'm going to give them the run to just go down the line kind of and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do. Ashton, you want to start?
Sure. Hi, I'm Ashton Carmichael. I am the manager of corporate technology services with Loves. So that encompasses a lot of our service teams from the infrastructure standpoint. So desktop support, we offer tailored support to our executives and family. We are leading up some IT training. And then I also partner with some technical architects to lead innovation as we change our corporate environment. So,
wow, cool. Thank you. Next, Bradley, you want to go?
Sure. Well, thanks for having me. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Bradley Bruner, and I work at Love's Travel Stops as well. And I work in loss prevention. So I got my loss prevention shirt on for you all. Basically, what we do is we protect the assets of the company. My job is somewhat not secretive, but is secretive in a way where we do a lot of reviews over the stores, but protect them and making sure that all the policies and procedures that Love's has created is being followed everywhere. Again, it has different realms where we work with a lot of managers and district managers as well, but very involved, and I'll be happy to answer any questions, but just glad to be here. So thank you.
Thank you. Kristi?
Hi, my name is Christy Burke. I'm with the Oklahoma City Community Foundation. I think I'm on week 3 of this new position. Formerly, I was at the Oklahoma Center for Nonprofits, so still staying in the nonprofit realm, but now working on the foundational side of things. The Oklahoma City Community Foundation works with our trustees to help them figure out where the best place their, or helps to help them delegate where their money should go in regards to nonprofits. So we work with individuals on how best to invest their money into the Oklahoma City community. My position is the manager of Keep Moving OKC, and Keep Moving OKC is a wellness initiative that has been implemented. It's in its infancy right now, but what it'll be is a program where people all over the OKC metro area, as north as Edmond, as south as Norman, as west as El Reno, as east as Middale, can go onto a website and find free or low cost activities for people to keep moving physically in the community.
Awesome. Sarah, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Sarah Moore. I work in career development with Julie, and I do outreach, a lot of marketing, promotions, messaging, things like that. I also am the advisor for the student group, the Career Development Ambassadors. So.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining.
Well, I'm so glad you guys are all here. Can you just first of all tell us the basic, in a nutshell, what does your everyday, maybe not outside of COVID-19, what is your everyday life like a little bit? You guys kind of touched on it, but let's go a little more in depth this time. Somebody want to start?
Sure, I'll go. All right. Well, for loss prevention, many of the days start off with us reviewing our stores, and we're constantly in contact with the field. We have over 500 locations, and each of those locations also have a restaurant, and a majority of them have a tire truck care center as well. So there's different facets within each location, but our goal is to make sure that there's no theft, whether it be internal or external, that does occur. We have a equipment maintenance that we look at. So my team has access to all the DVRs or the video cameras that you see in surveillance within the actual store. So it is pretty neat to sit there and you're not, some people may think you're watching video all day, but that's not really it. There's a lot of tactfulness that goes into it as well. But if the day just proceeds where if someone has an incident and they have an issue, we give them support. Part of my job is working with a lot of local law enforcement as well. So that's a good way to build your connections and networking. You get to practice that a lot. But also, it just helps you build on your communication skills. Something that I didn't know would be part of my job is interviewing employees, but when I say interviewing, it means like a deaf interview. So it's a little bit different. You don't really get involved with like you see on TV, or maybe like Law and Order or something like that. But it is a type of interrogation that I had to train in, and it's all over the telephone. So it's very, very neat how we do conduct our business, but it's used to help us out. So very interesting things. But that's in a nutshell. You don't know what's going to happen that day, but that's some of the things that could happen throughout the day.
That's interesting. Cool. Ashton, Kristi?
He's definitely a tough act to follow. So, gosh, how do I hype it up with IT? So, no, my day-to-day really does vary. I think in most fields you'll find when you get a grown-up or real-world job, there's a lot of ambiguity. But dealing with that in IT is, I think, tenfold, because number one, it's always changing. There's new technology and new innovation developed every day. There's bug fixes and ways to help people work better. So that is always changing, and to stay on the cusp of that takes a large team of people being able to look at it from every side. So that's exciting. But from my day-to-day, it changes because based on what technology changes we're trying to implement, those are the priorities for my week. So I look at it more of a week-to-week basis, because I'm really protective of my schedule, so that I have time to work on those tasks and projects. So days all look the same. My Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, but Monday through Friday, they're not the same. But I spend a lot of time with user experience, feedback, and trying to kick off those conversations, leading projects. And then I spend about 25 to 30% of my time each week developing my team. So a lot of extra work there to make sure that they can reach the goals that I set, that they have the tools and helping develop their skill sets or leadership skills. And then there's a good portion, working with teams across the organization. And then there's a good portion spent in managing up. So helping change how our leadership is interacting, how they're working with teams around them. And so driving it from all angles.
Right. That's interesting. That's cool. Thank you, Kristi.
Yeah, so
how's your 3 weeks of days?
My 3 weeks have been, they've been really intense, to be honest. So right now, like I said, the program that I'm curating is in its infancy. So right now my week or even month is going to look so different from something in June or July, and it'll definitely be based around the season. So right now I'm consistently working with our web design team, which we've outsourced, that they're in California and Seattle. So I'm checking in with them, which is really interesting because they're 2 hours behind us, which means I usually have to have my meetings in the afternoon, so I'm not killing them at 6 a.m. when I'm ready to go at 8. So really trying to pair in with them and have them understand what I'm looking for in the site. And then we're really big, and I'm personally really big on communication and meetings. Meetings can be a lot, but when everybody's on the same page, it's really, really helpful. So whether it's a one-on-one weekly meeting with my vice president or my CEO, maybe it's our weekly programming meeting to make sure that everyone, even if it's just a quick fill-in of what everybody's doing. So maybe someone in scholarships has a really heavy week. Well, if I need something, I may not go to her for advice or help because I know that she's doing something. So being on the same lines of communication within your department is always really nice, because I know if I have a heavy week, I want everybody not necessarily to know and be, braggadocious about it, but inform everybody so they know that if I'm out of pocket, it's not because I'm doing, I'm doing something specific to my position. It usually starts out heavy on Monday and then lightens up by Friday. And then right now, my week it started about Tuesday until probably mid-May. We'll be reaching out to organizations to get them involved with Get Moving. So whether that's an organization that we call activity hosts that are looking to do a 5K, or maybe they're hosting a free session on rowing, reaching out to them to say, hey, here's this platform that we have. We want to broadcast what you're doing. Come figure it all out, and then being able to tie them in into our directory. So then once we outsource everything to the public, it will all be there. So again, mine, because it's not a day-to-day, or it is a day-to-day instead of really having the same week over and over, which, to be honest, whenever you are in the real world, it is very rare to have a same week by week, unless it's a meeting, unless you have the I have an 8:30 Wednesday meeting every Wednesday for the rest of my life.
Right, yeah.
I mean, there's that, but
We all have that one.
It always transition.
Yeah. I think I would agree with that. Well, Bradley, I'm interested to hear a little bit. The next question we had is, how did your interests, your passions, your talents get you to the role you're in now?
Oh, good question. Well, it's a little bit different. So I know a lot of students will always think, well, I need to go to school for something that I am interested in. So I actually graduated from UCO as well, and I had a business degree, and my job background was managing operations at a movie theater. But then I started working at Love's, and I was in HR, so I was a field HR representative.
Okay.
That was a great experience. But after a year, there was an opportunity in loss prevention, which is similar to that role in certain aspects of protecting the company and making sure that policies and procedures are being met. And so I took a jump and actually had an opportunity to go to loss prevention, which is different because there's a lot of criminal justice background, but I had that business mindset as well, and working with the management experience. So that really did help me out with my years of management training and understanding how to work with a multi-level operation, whether someone has, like you mentioned, places in California, throughout the U.S., or so you're working different time zones, but throughout to the East Coast. But it was very helpful, and then that led to my my developing my communication skills as well. And so at that point, you're in loss prevention, and the wheels just start spinning. At that point, you're going down, as they say, the road to success, and it helped a lot of development for me when it came to, again, we talk about that in HR, of course, but conflict resolutions, and you're working and mediating between that of your management teams and your employees, but also you're finding resolutions as fast as you can to help people out and get everyone, as we always say, back on the road quickly. It's very important, and things that you do learn throughout your experience and education. I think that's one of the best things, is that no matter what you do learn, you can always contribute to something, other aspects as well. But those are some of the things I would say definitely helped me out my pathway.
What a great lesson, that you can always apply what you're learning to something else.
Yep.
That's very important for students, I think. Ashton, what about you? How'd you get interested or land where you are now?
Sure. Well, I didn't go into it thinking I'd end up in IT. But now that I'm here, I can't imagine a career doing anything else. So I had a very similar path to Bradley. I have my undergrad is in business administration, and then I went back about 10 years later and went after my master's in human resource management. I chose that. I had spent about 10 years with a company through college, and then went and managed a large retail store, and opened up a couple of new store locations across the country. And I loved it. I loved every minute of it. I got the entrepreneurship side of it. I got to hire my own team and develop them, and I got to do all of my own planograms. And so there was a lot of pride and ownership with that. But as you get older, your priorities change, and working in a retail environment, although highly rewarding, and you never work with harder working people, it's long hours, and it's hard. When I started to have children, and doing the traveling piece of it was hard, and it tugged
Yeah.
on my heartstrings. So I ended up staying home for a bit. And with that, tried to rediscover myself. What do I want to be? So that's how I went into HR, because I have a passion for people. But after that, and after I'd landed in IT, I said, I'm never going to work in HR. No offense to that, but I just had a passion somewhere else, and added this HR piece to my toolbox. But I think the common thread in all of it is that I love to help people. So I'm really helping empower people with technology now. I'm developing teams that don't get a lot of maybe attention, because they also tend to be introverted and analytical. And that was a common thread while I stayed at home and volunteered for nonprofits and did books for nonprofits, and ended up volunteering all of my time away, where I said I should just go back to work. Like,
Yeah.
this business isn't for me. But that's my common thread, is that my interests are about seeing other people be as successful as they possibly can. And so I think when I was referred to this position from my previous employer, that was the thread, is that he said, my old boss told my new one, he said, that's a girl that can go and get stuff done for you. She'll be able to change whatever, and good luck keeping her busy. Okay.
Wow. What a good referral.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Kristi, I know you didn't start out in the nonprofit world either.
I did not. Very, very rarely do people in the nonprofit world have a background in the nonprofit world. Yeah, I attended OU, played college sports, graduated with a degree in secondary English with a minor in petroleum engineering and African American studies, because I did not know what I wanted to do.
Wow.
So I ended up teaching high school, and then coaching high school soccer, teaching middle school, kindergarten through 8th grade, being an administrator, and then had a daughter and realized that I liked her, and teaching may not be for me. And she may be the only kiddo that no, I'm just kidding. But really, what I realized is that I had a capacity to help more people and serve more of the community than I was serving. And so I transitioned from education into the nonprofit world at the Oklahoma Center for Nonprofits. And the easiest way to describe them is they're a nonprofit that teaches nonprofits to be nonprofits. So they're like the UCO for nonprofits. So it was an amazing experience. I worked there for 2 years, and when this position came up, it truly was my passion all developed into one. If I could work with nonprofits, if I could work with the community, all ages, and I could teach wellness, that's all I needed. I've taught wellness classes over at UCO, and for many, many years. I'm a yoga instructor. Like I said, I coach sports. I'm a personal trainer. So if I can do all the things that I love to do in my free time, and then actually do it as a career, it's very rare that you're able to really fall into that category. And so I felt like, you sometimes are working to live and not living to work. And now I feel like I'm truly living for my work. 3 weeks in, finding him, no, but I think
that's awesome.
I really, really found my place. And it took a while. It took many career changes. And I think that's what a lot of people don't recognize, especially as you're going into your undergrad and you're saying, okay, I'm going to be a school teacher. And at the time, whenever I went in, I was like, oh no, I'm going to be a doctor. And then I'm going to be a mechanical engineer. Okay, well, I think I'm going to go to law school. Well, I'm going to teach school and coach soccer. Oh, well, I don't know what I'm going to do with my life. I'm 30. Okay, well, maybe I'll transition. So I think that what Ashton and Bradley have said, I fall into that too, of you think you know where you're going, but you really don't until you get your feet wet, and then you find through that longevity, you find where you're really meant to be.
Yeah. What a good lesson. So, Ashton, you talked about, I'm going to skip a little bit, but you talked about volunteering a little bit while you were at home before you got back into the workforce. And Kristi, I'm sure you might have done some of this as well, but let's talk about any volunteer experience or outside experience that you guys have. How did that play a role or help you in the positions that you're in now?
Sure. So I've volunteered with a couple of different organizations, but I think that it's always very important to stay involved, because it helps you, like Kristi was saying, feel like you're giving back more. And I think that that's where the satisfaction comes from, at least for me. But for my volunteer experiences, I really just kind of started being like, well, what am I good at, and what can I contribute, and what groups really need my help? So that's how I started finding places. And then once I had that experience notches under my belt, then I got to kind of build and choose who I wanted to devote my time to.
Right.
And so it's kind of evolved from doing books, which I can do accounting, but I don't love it. I from doing that to actually doing volunteer work, to working with people in crisis centers, to help do edits for books that were being published for a nonprofit, to where now I can be really mindful of where I pour my energy. So I sit on the board of a foundation here in Norman, and that organization is near and dear to my heart. There are different life experiences that you go through, and a lot of times, especially in your 20s, your late teens and early 20s, you start to learn those really hard lessons. And sometimes those lessons change who you are. So for mine, I would recommend that if you go through something, never go through something alone. And that for me, I've gone through certain things so that I can be an advocate for other people. And I can now use my skills and my expertise to tie all that in, to have a passion, a why, and give that back. And so that's why it makes sense for me to be on this board. I can bring in some of my skills, but I'm super passionate about their mission. And I
Do
feel
you use those skills in your current job?
Yep. And then it kind of goes, to go back full circle with that, love's also why I made that company change, is because they give back so much. They're huge on humanitarian and volunteer efforts. I am also working on a culture committee within Loves. So I get to kind of integrate that, and I'm going to work even closer over the next few years. So I think my involvement with that volunteer organization, kind of, even though it wasn't something I was waving a flag around work saying, it probably did do something to get me recognized, to be able to be sitting at that table
Right.
with my career with Loves, to start shifting some of that. So,
oh, I love that. Bradley, did you have any volunteer? I know you talked a little bit about what you had done in college at the theater. Did you have any like volunteer type experiences that it helped you?
Yes, from time to time, like with just outside of work, maybe with friends. But like Ashton mentioned, once I got on board with Loves, and I had more experience with volunteer, and I think that was the best part of it. Of course, the United Way. But then one of my favorites is the Regional Food Bank of Oklahoma. Just a few times going there to help, but then that allowed me to realize that's probably one of my favorite ones. And maybe, as Kristi mentioned, when you are a school teacher, you do see that sometimes there are going to be some students who are maybe don't have as much as others, or that really hits home when I knew that as a student I walked the same halls as some kids who maybe didn't have the same as I did growing up, even if it was just a meal. So I know that my family is very giving and sharing when it comes to food. Everyone loves like the family dinners, right?
Yeah.
But then that kind of hit home when I knew that some people didn't have that. So Loves gave me an outlet to even open up more with the regional food bank. So I am excited to always be able to help them out, but that's probably one of my favorite ones.
Oh, I love that. We love the regional food bank too. We partner with them on campus for our central pantry.
Awesome.
They're one of our partners for that. So we have a very soft spot for them as well. Kristi, what about you? Are you in the nonprofit world?
I know. I love me some nonprofits. No, from the for-profit world, my suggestion would be find a for-profit that is involved with the nonprofit community, because if they're showing they have the capacity to give back to the people around them, you know that there is worth in that work, that company. So Love's, Jenny Love Meyer, Judy Love, those two people are near and dear to my heart. And Love's is always looking to do the next right thing, the next best thing for the Oklahoma City community. So I'm always grateful for those people who really are in the Love's group, because I know that they are dependable. Going into that now, not trying to get too far off, but whenever you work for a company like Love's, or let's say Paycom, I know Paycom gives back a lot too. So if your name is tied in with one of those companies, people will recognize that you had that caring heart, and that company has the capacity to let you go do some sort of nonprofit work. So with me, I do a lot of nonprofit work outside of my nonprofit work. And I think it's really important to get involved, because you don't know what you don't know. So whether you've never been homeless, or maybe you've never had a family member with a drug or alcohol problem, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't, or that you shouldn't get involved with that. That just means that maybe you need to dissect into a nonprofit, a specific nonprofit that has those opportunities for you to help in, if you aren't familiar with them. And if anybody has any questions about nonprofits, feel free to reach out. But I think it's important for you to find what you feel is your calling outside of your work, because we often get so consumed with our day-to-day that we lose sight on how we can be compassionate and help others. I know right now through the COVID crisis, people are really opening up their hearts, opening up their wallets, opening up their minds to that contribution. But unfortunately, when everything is said and done, a lot of people will say, oh, well, I donated my $20. I'm out. I'm going to continue on with my life. And that's not what it's about. You develop, as Ashton said, you develop these skill sets with these nonprofits, with these boards that you serve on, that you're able to take into your job. And then not only that, but then the components that you have at your day job, you can take into a nonprofit. Like Ashton said, she does books. If you're a nonprofit professional and you're looking for a board member, anybody who will do accounting for free, like, we want you.
Yeah.
And so, Ashton's a hot commodity, because she's going to do our accounting for us. But in return, she may be learning more about the actual numbers of people who are struggling with substance abuse or child homelessness in Cleveland County or whatever it is. So I think there is a partnership with that, and I think there's so much you can gain from that nonprofit connection and that professionalism that comes with it.
Yeah.
And I think if I could just follow up with that too, I think as you start, if you're looking at working for a corporation, the more you study the people at the top, because everybody has ambitions, and so you start looking like, what's their secret sauce? What did they do? I think that this volunteer piece and your passion for humanitarian efforts and your desire to give back and make the world a better place around you is one of the most underspoken traits of a leader in an organization. But you will see, if you dig in, that the people who are very successful generally have a history of volunteer work.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's so important for students, I think, to understand that they can put that on their resume and they can use that. Well, I'm going to try and wrap it up, because Zoom's going to kick us out here in a little bit. So I want to finish off by asking, what types of experiences would you advise students try to gain while they're still in college? That'll be our last one. Bradley, you want to start?
Sure, I'll go. I would say that you should experience the communication piece is very important. I know that everyone thinks, oh, a group project, but then you roll into, like you guys mentioned, having meetings. So you do find that transition is very important to have that collaborative effect. I myself continue to work on that. I joined Toastmasters, and Loves has provided that club as well. So that experience has helped me out. But just continue to develop yourself. I know that some people think, all right, I graduated, I'm done, but continue to find your own self-development pathway. I've really joined in on that. So different books to read, or if there's any kind of training that maybe your job offers, or maybe some sort of master class training. Sometimes it could just even be a podcast that you listen to. But self-development is the key. I think that everyone on the panel will probably agree to that. But if you continue to develop yourself, and then you'll design that interest that you do like, and then you'll follow that pathway. For example, for me, you may see it's like an aviation poster back here, but hey, that's one of my mindsets and go-to. So I always try to follow that pathway of how can I keep flying per se in life. But definitely just find your self-development and continue on with that.
Awesome. Thank you. Kristi, any last thoughts? What experiences would you tell students they should gain?
I would say don't lose sight of what success looks like for you. Sometimes we are so desperate to find a job because it's paying money, that and that's sometimes what we have to do, but sometimes we end up settling for less than what we are truly capable of. So like Bradley said, through those professional development opportunities, through young professional organizations, you're able to continually develop yourself, so then you can find that next step to success, and then move on and move on and move on. Because what you're going to start out as much as we would love to say, okay, you've been through college, I'm going to make this, six-figure job, or get the six-figure job offer at 24. Well, realistically, probably not. But that doesn't mean that shouldn't be set for maybe at 30 or 35, and then just really pushing yourself to develop in your profession and within yourself, that you finding those intrinsic motivators that keep you going. So I would say just really keep pushing yourself to those limits, because settling won't get you anywhere.
Great advice. Ashton, what about you?
All right. So piggyback on those, I would probably say two things. Get really comfortable with the idea of determining your own success. Like Kristi said, you can't copy paste and say this is what worked for Kristi and Bradley and Ashton, so this is what's going to work for me. You've got to kind of shake it up and figure it out. Keys to doing that is make a commitment to yourself that when you graduate UCO, that's not the last time you crack open a book. Develop some habits to be a lifelong learner. Create habits that work for you. I read a fiction, then go to a nonfiction, and then go back and forth so I can implement the things that I learn, but then also give my brain a little bit of rest space. And I'm constantly on hbr.org looking up new technology, or what are people saying about this, or how do I coach my team on this, and how do I develop this, or here's a weird thought I had. Like, I'm constantly in that search mode to improve myself. And then the third thing would be to pair all of that with getting really comfortable reaching out to peers, reaching out to supervisors, and just knowing that even though you may not know the answer, it doesn't make you a bad candidate for the job or mean that you're doing a bad job. It means that you're willing to grow and learn. And when we're uncomfortable is when we see the largest growth. And your bosses they don't want you to just kind of stumble through something. Ask for help. Never try to be the smartest person in the room, and always have something to grow. And that's when you're going to be successful.
Great advice. Thank you guys so much. This has been amazing. I love it. Thank you so much for all of your time. You guys have a great afternoon. We so appreciate it. And have a good rest of the week.
Thanks for
Thank
having
you.
us.
Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.